us bow our heads to pray. Dear Jesus, please bless this Sabbath day, helping us to come through another week. Please help us to learn something new to share with others. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Good morning, boys and girls.
Good morning, Miss.
Do you know what today is?
Yes.
What day is today?
Sabbath.
And on the Sabbath day we worship and we sing praises to God. So let us go inside and sing some songs and praises to Jesus.
Welcome to Sabbath School. Welcome to Sabbath School. Welcome to Sabbath School. Welcome to Sabbath School. Friends, welcome to Sabbath School. Friends, welcome to Sabbath School. Sabbath is a happy day, happy day, happy day. Sabbath is a happy day. I love every Sabbath. Sabbath is a happy day, happy day, happy day. Sabbath is a happy day. I love every Sabbath. I've got a joy song in my heart. Song in my heart. Song in my heart. I've got a joy song in my heart. Song in my heart to sing. And I'm so happy, so very happy. For I got the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. For I have the love of Jesus in my heart. I know the devil doesn't like it, but it's song in my heart. Song in my heart. Song in my heart. I know the devil doesn't like it, but it's song in my heart. Song in my heart to sing. And I'm so happy, so very happy. For I have the love of Jesus in my heart. And I'm so happy, so very happy. For I have the love of Jesus in my heart. Jesus wants me for a sunbeam to shine for him each day. In every way try to please him, at home, at school, at play. A sunbeam, Jesus wants me for a sunbeam, a sunbeam, a sunbeam. I'll be a sunbeam for him. Jesus wants me for a sunbeam to shine for him each day. In every way try to please him, at home, at school, at play. A sunbeam, a sunbeam. Jesus wants me for a sunbeam, a sunbeam, a sunbeam. I'll be a sunbeam for him. of mine. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. On a Monday, I'm gonna let it shine. On a Monday, I'm gonna let it shine. On a Tuesday, I'm gonna let it shine. On a Wednesday, I'm gonna let it shine. On a Tuesday, I'm gonna let it shine. On a Friday, I'm gonna let it shine. On a Saturday, give me the power divine just to let my little light shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Boys and girls,
Yes, Miss.
do you know that Jesus will be coming for us one day?
Yes, Miss.
Would you like Jesus to come?
Yes,
Yes,
Will you be able to see Jesus when he comes?
Yes,
And you know, we will see our Lord coming, and that will be a happy time.
You will see your Lord coming. You will see your Lord coming. You will see your Lord coming in a few more days.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. And today is the day after we all celebrated our Republic Day yesterday, September 24th, in Trinidad and Tobago. And as you know, during this pandemic that is going on, the amount of commands and commandments that we are forced or nearly forced to obey, today is a good day for us to talk about a certain topic. Joshua, tell us what topic we should be speaking about today.
The 10 Commandments.
Yes, commandments are all around us now. All kind of orders to obey. And as I said, orders. Isn't the word orders a kind of synonym for commandments? And do you think there's a difference between a command and a commandment? I was thinking, and maybe not. If I command you to leave my house now, and I give you a commandment, maybe that is if it is put in writing, possibly. But you just add MENTS to command, and you get commandments. And if you put a S onto command, you get commands. So they can nearly be the same. But let's get Maya and Gabriel to just remind us of the first 2 commandments.
I am Maya Elizabeth. Today I will be reading from Exodus 20 verse 3 and 4. God says, "Do not put any gods in place of me." I am Gabriel, Maya's older brother. Verse 3 means that we are to worship the one true God. Exodus 20 verse 4 says, "Do not make statues of gods that look like anything in the sky or on the earth or in the waters." Verse 4 means we are not to build any image to represent God on the earth, sea or sky.
Thank you so much, Joshua, Maya, and Gabriel. Now, and imagine that you heard the explanation that Maya and Gabriel gave to the 2nd and 3rd commandment. That was so nice. And imagine a command came just after. Remember, all the others started with a different word. But the 4th one came, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And somehow I think it could be also a command, work for 6 days. I've never taken it from that angle. But somehow I think work for 6 days could be another command that we can glean from that 4th commandment. But we will take it as is for now, that the 4th commandment includes all of that. Some people don't like to work. So I think this is a good commandment for those who don't like to work and like to eat. That same creator of the universe who gave us those commandments to guide us to live right, we will now hear a song about that same big, large, energetic God by Gianna Nichols.
My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do for you. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do for you. The mountains are His, the valleys are His, the stars are His handiwork too. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty. There's nothing my God cannot do for you and you and you and you.
Malik, it is now your turn to tell us what the 5th commandment
The 5th command.
says.
Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee.
Destiny Green, do you know the 6th commandment?
Of course I do. Thou shalt not kill.
Alicia Green, can you tell me the seventh commandment?
Of course, thou shalt not commit adultery.
Oh, thank you so much, Destiny. Thank you, Malik. And look at that action for killing. I just love it. Love it. Those are the kind of actions we used to show when we were that age too. Slice a neck. But that is for when we're dealing with chickens, not human beings. We're supposed to treat human beings with love and concern. And Gianna, look at those actions you gave for that powerful God that you serve. Keep it up. And we will all want to be as energetic as you for the rest of our life. Whoa. Well, let us hear now. There are other commandments that we have to hear. Let us see what will come up here by the others.
The 8th commandment said, thou shalt not steal. The 9th commandment said, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbors.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife.
Joaquin and Darius, thank you so much for those last 2 commandments. And I'm sure there are bad commandments too. What do you think, children? Don't you think there are bad commandments? Like if another child tell you, let's steal his pencil, is not a bad commandment. Or let's run away and break beach, is not a bad commandment. So there are bad commandments that children should not obey. But most commandments that are meant for us to do end up in feeling good are what we have to follow. If your mother has to make bake or bread or cake or sweet bread, whatever she follows can be called commandments. Leave the flour to raise for 2 hours. That's a commandment. If you leave it to raise for 1 hour, it won't come out nice. So commandments are made generally for the benefit of us all, whether we are children or we are adults. So let us hear now from Aaron about how commandments help him in his food business. Take it away, Aaron.
In my job, I abide by these 2 commandments, the washing of my hands and the wearing of hairnet.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aaron. And now, Matthew will now share with us how some commandments help him every day.
Good morning.
Take it away, Matthew.
10 commandments. John, when you hear 10 commandments, what comes to your mind? I hear rules, I hear some form of guidance. Yes, and you're right. So these 10 commandments are like rules, or they are rules, right? Same way we have rules on the road for driving. In school, same way you have rules in school. 2 rules I follow while driving. You don't break the stoplight. That is put in place there so you won't get into accidents. You know. Another one, keep left while driving to keep the traffic flowing, right? So you won't be driving head on with somebody else, to lower the risk of accidents. Another 2 rules I follow in school. Plagiarism as a big thing. You don't want to copy somebody else's work. It's also a form of cheating. And talking about cheating, you don't want to cheat in your exams. As Uncle Billy say, don't fudge. You know? By cheating, you can get expelled from the exam or from the university. So these are the 2 rules or 2 guidance that we follow.
Thank you, Matthew. And those are commandments that people will need, and all these children, adults and children can benefit super from those commandments. And there are commandments for wives, there are commandments for husbands, there are commandments for teachers. I'm sure there are commandments for parents. And some children, like when I was small, I wanted my mother and father to obey this commandment which says, Do not beat children. I always loved that commandment when I was a child. Do not shout at children. I love that commandment. And I just wish adults, teachers, and parents could consider such a commandment in talking to children despite what they do. Children, what do you think? And children, you will know when you become big and get married and you have children, those are some commandments that you can choose to obey. Then, by respecting children at all ages and let them speak out freely and say whatever they need to say respectfully. So that is a commandment that can be followed. And so as we come to the end of this program, we have seen that commandments in the main are very good and needed for us to be able to enjoy ourselves on this earth. We must walk on the side of the road. That is a commandment for all children and adults. The prime minister, presidents, even vagans must walk on the side and not in the middle of the road. That's a commandment. So there are certain things that we must obey, we must abide by and obey for us to be alive on this earth. So let us, for this week coming, make up our minds to ask the same God of the universe who created, the same God who gave the commandments, is the same God who gave commands even in Genesis 1 when he said, let there be sun, and the sun came out. That was a command he gave, and the sun came out. Let there be moon, and the moon came out. So commandments are all over. Even God and all have commandments that he obeys. God loves all of us. Love everybody. God operates with that commandment. God cannot hate anybody despite what we do him. God loves. So for the week coming, all children listening and all adults, let's try to make up some further commandments that we can work with that will help this Trinidad and Tobago and other countries in the world to go through this pandemic that is so negative to us all. Have us cloud up. We have to stay inside. We have to come in early. During this pandemic, there are extra commandments that we must obey so that we will not get sick. We will not get the coronavirus. We won't get any asthma. We won't get any lung disease. Let's keep praying that God, the creator of the universe, will be with all of us for the rest of the week and the rest of our life as we allow him to guide us with all the great commandments. Have a beautiful week, children.
Good morning, boys and girls again. This is the last Sabbath of this quarter for this lesson, this wonderful lesson we are doing with Moses. Now, as we come to the last quarter, I hope you all had because we will also be coming to the last few days of school. We enter in the month of October. I hope you all had a wonderful time, and I hope you all had an enjoyable time doing the lessons, and you'll continue keep doing it because in it you will learn much. This last lesson we're going to look at is entitled Safe at Last. Safe at last. And all these past lessons that we've been doing, it had to do with worship. Yes, as I was saying, worship is a lifestyle. In everything that we do, we worship God. Everything that we do, because we represent him. And if we are representing God, our lives have to be impeccable, because God watches and he sees. Remember Moses? When Moses struck the rock, that was worship. But was the wrong worship? Lord them to speak to the rock. Moses did his own thing. You get vexed because the people get vexed. So that is worship. You going to school, how you behave with your friends, that is worship. That will tell them what God is like. So now let us get into the story. As I said before, safe at last. Maria was in trouble, big trouble. She had accidentally dropped a box of eggs. What a mess! Well, there was nothing else to do. She had to tell her mommy and clean up the floor. It was an accident, mommy. She began, I didn't mean to drop the egg. Honestly, I didn't. I know sometimes we have accidents too. Sometimes we go to do something and something happens. Accidents will happen. I know, said Maria. I knew that, Marian said her mother. I am just glad it happened in the kitchen where the floor can be cleaned easily. Sometimes accidents just happen, but people don't always understand. That is what happened in our story today. Now remember, as I told you before, the Lord have given the children of Israel many laws and a whole host of laws what to do if something go wrong, whatever. But this was one of them. If you accidentally kill somebody, there was a city called the City of Refuge. In other words, it was a safe house. If you did something and did it by accident, you could have run there and stayed there until the case was tried to make sure that it wasn't nobody trying something or anything like that, to make sure that what they did was really an accident. So here we go. The man staggered down the road, breathing in short gasps. The stabbing pain in his side made him stumble. He looked back over his shoulders in terror. There was no one behind him and that he could see, but he knew someone would be coming. Why would they be coming? Well, we'll hear in a while. He faced forward again and tried to run faster. It couldn't be very far away now. What couldn't be very far away now? The city of Shechem. And in that city was called the City of Refuge. The road down which he ran was in good condition, and all the crossroads had signposts, so he knew exactly where he was going. Refuge, they read, refuge. At last, he wouldn't get lost. The only question was, would he make it in the city in time before whoever was chasing him come? Because if they catch up with him, they could have killed him. So he was running literally for his life. He hadn't meant to harm his neighbor. He hadn't meant to hurt him, but his axe head had flew off and struck his neighbor's face. It was true. He had accidentally killed the man. So apparently he was using an axe, and as he swung the axe, the axe head, it flew off, and his neighbor who was nearby, it hit him in the face, and the neighbor fell dead. But as I said before, it was an accident. But sometimes when accident happen, people don't want to hear. Probably his family think that he must do it for spite. Probably he had something against him. So he had to run to the City of Refuge. If he had stopped to explain, they might have killed him. So he going to the City of Refuge, and there they will have judges and they will decide the case. So now when he was running, he was hoping to make it in time before whoever it is running catch up with him. Let us see what happened. However, it had been an unfortunate, unplanned accident. Even so, his neighbor family would come after him. A life for a life. That was the law. But if he could just get to the City of Refuge, everything will be all right. He would be safe, and he will be able to explain everything to the elders, and then they will make a pronouncement on the case. He looked back again. Someone was indeed running along the road behind him. Far back in the distance, he sobbed and turned and tried to run even faster. He had to make it to Shechem. He just had to, because if they catch up with him, he knew for sure they'd have killed him. So he was running, literally running for his life, tired, but he had to make it to the city. The city gate was just ahead. Elders were waiting there to see if he would be permitted in. He ran faster. He would make it. He had made it. God was good. Having cities of refuge was God's idea. He knew that sometimes people get accused of something they did not do, and sometimes bad things happen by accident. So God told Moses to set aside cities here and there throughout all the nation of Israel where the people can find safety. Now remember, Israel was a big place. You couldn't just have one city. In the different provinces, different city, you had to have a city of refuge. Think of it this way. Imagine you're living in Arima and the city of refuge in San Fernando. You wouldn't reach there before, they had them kill you. So you might have put up a city of refuge in Arima, one in Tunapuna, one in Aruca, and that is how it was. So it had enough time to get to one of the cities. But the city of refuge can keep people safe only if they stay where? Inside. The Lord had told them plainly, you must be inside the city. You cannot come out of the city, at least until your case was tried. And then, when the case was tried and they gave the pronouncement, they could come out of the city because they could no longer kill it because they would have heard the both sides of the story. Right. So, sometimes people seek refuge in the city to live there for the rest of their life, because sometimes they didn't even trust the other people. They say something, we will stay in this city until we die. Because even though they were pronounced innocent, sometimes they still, in their mind, they were still afraid that the people might have killed them. But remember, as we had said from the beginning of the lesson that we had gone by, that the Lord told them, if you do this, this is what will happen. If you don't do that, that's what happens. I want to say this. If you follow my commands, you have nothing to worry about. But if you forget them, these are things that happen. The same thing happening in our world today. We have laws, and some of us, we don't keep the laws. Bad things just happen. Some of us keep the laws, and even bad things happen to us when we keep the law. But we trust in our laws. They might not be perfect, but we trust them. But I'll tell you one thing. God's law is perfect. You could trust it with your whole being. If God says something, it is so, it is said, it is done, it is finished. And if God tells us, obey the 10 commandments, and we stray away from them, we'll find ourselves in trouble. God's commandments are real, it is straightforward. Once you listen to them, once you abide by them, you have nothing to worry about, nothing at all. Even though if they accuse you wrongfully, that wrongful accuse is in man's eyes. In man's eyes, but you see in the God of heaven, who we talk about, God is the righteous judge. His judgment is perfect. Perfect. You have nothing to worry about. So don't worry when people accuse you. Even in school, sometimes my friends accuse you of something and you know you didn't do it and you want to get angry. No, don't get angry. You know what's the best thing to do? Pray for them. Ask the Lord to change their heart, because Jesus died for them too. Jesus died for them too. Even the most miserable child in the school, Jesus died for him. And he also died for you, and he died for me. So don't be worried. Don't get scared. Pray for them, and the Lord could change their heart around, and he could see them in heaven. So, as we say, we all need a place of refuge today. And that refuge could only be found in Jesus. Once we stay with him, our safety will be sure, and more than that, it will be secured. Nobody, Jesus said, once he put you in his hands, well, not his literal hands, but he said, once I have you and you stick with me, there is nothing anybody could do to you to make you lose eternal life. Nothing. Because with Jesus, you're safe and very safe. So boys and girls, I'm advising you as you go through the remainder of this week coming here, that you stay with Jesus. It doesn't matter what happened in school this coming week or what might happen the past weeks before. Stay with Jesus. Don't get angry. Don't look to do anybody anything. Just trust the Lord that he will work it out. And I guarantee you, Jesus will work it out for you. Thank you. Have a blessed Sabbath and enjoy the rest of your coming week. God bless.
Keep me safe, my God, for in you I take refuge.
Welcome to another interesting junior lesson study. We are going to introduce this lesson by you observing this strap. Do you notice it's a mouse trap? And the bait for this mouse is cheese. Do you know that Satan wants to capture us by setting traps in our lives? Oh, yes. Our lesson today will talk about the dangers of falling into Satan's trap. Today, juniors, we are going to take a look at one of God's leaders and discover how Satan trapped him in an evil situation. We just examined how quick and deadly a mousetrap can be. There are lots of ways Satan has to trick and even trap us. Let's take a look at one of God's leaders, Saul, and see how Satan ensnared him. In 1 Samuel 28, we learn that Samuel was dead, and Saul did not have anyone speaking to him for God. Saul had tried to rid Israel of Satan's prophets and messengers that were so much a part of the religion of the people around Israel. The Philistines were going to fight Israel again. Saul was scared and tried to get a quick and easy answer from God without re-establishing a humble, repentant, and personal relationship with him. How many times have we done the same thing? Try to get an easy answer. Saul fell into Satan's trap by going to a witch to seek answers. Yes, a witch. The witch asked him, "What do you want?" He answered, "Consult a spirit for me and bring up Samuel." The witch brought up someone who looked and sounded like Samuel. "Why have you disturbed me?" the spirit asked. "I'm in great distress," Saul answered. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has departed from me. He no longer answers me either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called upon you to tell me what to do." Remember, I told you, boys and girls, that Satan places baits in our lives to trap us. Satan used a demon, yes, a demon, to impersonate Samuel. His gestures even resembled those of the prophet. The supernatural appearance was produced solely by the power of Satan. He could as easily assume the form of Samuel as he could assume that of an angel of light when he tempted Christ in the wilderness. But we need to understand what the Bible says about the dead so that the devil cannot fool us with his lies. In the book of Ecclesiastes 9 verse 5 to 6, it says, "For the living know that they will die. For the living know that they will die, but the dead knows nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun." So the devil cannot fool us with his lies. Boys and girls, when Saul consulted the witch of Endor, he had sealed his doom. He had separated himself from God, his only source of strength. Now he could not inspire his troops with courage for the battle. He could no longer lead his men to look to God as their helper. What things does Satan bring into your life to tempt you? What about being dishonest in the virtual classroom in terms of Miss or sir might ask you to correct your own work. And instead of putting it wrong, you put the answer correct. And then tell Miss you got all correct. That's a trap. What about taking things that just doesn't belong to you? So I want you to think about things that Satan tries to tempt you with. Think about them. And then I want you to ask God to help you to overcome these temptations. You know what the Bible promises, boys and girls, juniors, mummies and daddies? The Bible promises that when we give ourselves completely to God, the devil will leave us alone. Oh yes. Saul had forgotten this protection from God and was allowing himself to be tempted into believing the devil's lies, falling into his trap. Ever since the Garden of Eden, Satan has been continuing his lies about what happens to us when we die. We worship God when we follow him and stay away from the lies and snares of Satan. Our PowerPoint, as we close, our PowerPoint reminds us that we worship God who gives us the victory over Satan's deception. I repeat, our PowerPoint reminds us that we worship God who gives us, only God, gives us that victory over all Satan's deception. So as we close, I want to remind you to study your lesson and tune in next Sabbath for another fascinating lesson about Jesus.
Good morning, boys and girls, and happy Sabbath. Have you ever felt like you didn't fit in or people just did not understand you? Well, this happened for 9-year-old Niang, who had arrived at the United States only a month earlier from her homeland of Myanmar. Her parents were refugees and she did not know any English. And to make matters worse, she did not have any friends and the school year had already begun. And her first day of school was in November, so she was already behind. Let's see how the story unfolds for Niang. Hi, what's your name?
No.
Oh, where are you from?
No.
A while later.
Hi, what's your name? No. Where are you from? No.
Niang was not trying to be rude. She just did not understand what the children were asking. Because she didn't know any English, she sat quietly all morning in class. At lunchtime, she followed the other children to the cafeteria. The fourth graders always sat together at their assigned tables. The teacher would watch to make sure they behaved. Niang looked at the food being served: cheese, beef, pizzas, and chicken nuggets. She was used to eating mustard leaves, potato leaves, watercress, beans, and lentils. After tasting the strange food, she returned to the classroom and sat quietly until the end of the school day. At home, she prayed to God for help.
Dear God, help me to survive in school and keep me safe from getting into trouble with the teachers. And keep me safe as I walk to school.
Many things at school confused Niang. She didn't know where anything was and couldn't ask for directions. The teacher gave her a multiple choice test. She didn't know what to do. She couldn't understand the questions and she didn't know how to fill out the answers. She randomly circled answers. Sometimes the teacher got angry. Several children would start talking at the same time, and the noise grew loud in the classroom. The teacher did not like that. "Be quiet, everybody," she would snap. The children would quiet down for a moment, but then forgot. The talking would grow loud again. "Shut up!" the teacher would shout. Again, the room was quiet for a while, but then the talking would start again. The teacher could not take it anymore. Everyone is on silent lunch except for Niang, she would yell. The classroom will get really quiet. The punishment meant no one could talk during lunch except for Niang. Niang realized that the teacher was being nice to her because she never spoke in class. She decided that it would be better for her to remain quiet all the time rather than to be yelled at by her teacher. At home, she prayed anxiously every day. Dear God, please help me survive another day of school. Help me not to get in trouble with the teacher and keep me safe as I walk to school. 4th grade was very rough for Niang, but 5th grade got better. She knew her way around the school and she did not have to ask for directions. She began to speak English and to make friends. What's your name?
My name is Naya.
Oh, where are you from?
I am from Burma, also known as Myanmar.
Niang felt happy. She was beginning to fit in her school. She felt even happier in 7th grade. She was able to transfer from the public school to the Seventh-day Adventist school.
Thank you for helping me learn this new language and overcome struggles little by little. Amen.
So, boys and girls, we must always remember to pray when we're going through difficult situations. And remember, we must always be kind to those around us, even though they may be different from us. So enjoy the rest of your Sabbath and enjoy the rest of the program. Bye.
Welcome to Craft Time, boys and girls. One of the lessons learned during this pandemic is that we need to care for each other. As children, we can show we care by being helpful. Helping others makes Jesus happy. So today, we will be making a Helping Hands for Jesus poster. Step 1. You will need a sheet of Bristol board on which you will draw your hands. Parents, you can help the smaller ones to draw their hands. Step 2. Draw in the border and write the words Helping Hands for Jesus and your name. I am using Samara's hands in this poster. Step 3. Time to decorate. We can use poster paint, we can use crayons, or we can use kite paper. If you are using the poster paint, you can just paint it on, or if you are more adventurous, you can actually put the paint on the child's hands and let them stamp on the Bristol board. And this will look something like this. If you are using crayons, it would look something like this. However, today, we are going to use the kite paper with glue. So for this method, you put the glue on the print, and then you take small pieces of kite paper, you roll it into small balls, and then you stick it on. And then you continue this process until you have covered the entire handprint. This method will also help with the motor skills of our younger ones. Now this is Samara posing with her Helping Hands poster. Isn't that lovely? Samara is one of the students at Branch Sabbath School. Now that your poster is complete, you can display your poster on the refrigerator or on a photo stand. Until next time, remember, Helping Hands for Jesus.
To me, emancipation means being able to do what I want without infringing on another person's freedom. I say this because even after we were emancipated, there were still laws and loopholes created and exploited to keep Black people from thriving economically as a community. I want the days where all the marches and protests are put behind us. We are indeed emancipated when we accept Christ. True freedom is found in knowing Him.
Freedom. It's the power of choice, the right to free will. Freedom to me, it's being on July-August vacation and doing what I want to do. It's waking up late and having pizza and cake for breakfast. It's roller skating for hours on end and making video games all day, every day. It's hanging out with my bird and playing basketball with my brother. But could you imagine not having freedom, not having the choice on what you want to do? Well, that's how it was for the African slaves about 400 years ago. Their masters had to tell them how to do everything. When to wake up, when to sleep, when to work, when to bathe. Now that was definitely not freedom. But do you know God gives us freedom too? Yeah, God allows us to choose between right and wrong, good and evil. But you know, it's our job as humans to choose to do the right thing and form a relationship with God, so that when He comes back the second time, we'll experience having everlasting freedom and everlasting joy with Him in heaven. Now, that surely sounds like freedom to me. Happy Emancipation Day!
To me, freedom means being able to have a proper life, being able to make wise choices, and to do the right things without people forcing me to, or I'm having restrictions. It doesn't mean doing what I want to do, but what is.
To me, freedom means I can make my own choices. Freedom for me means that I can read any book I like. It also means that I can learn different things, like doing art, which I love, sewing, and even singing and dancing. It even allows me to smell the flowers.
Good morning, everyone, and a special good morning to the boys and girls listening. For you see, this lesson this morning is especially for you. I want you to understand how, though you are small, though you are a little boy or a little girl, God can use you to do big things, great things. All through history, God have used small people to do great things. Little things always mean a lot. Little things can make big differences. Big engines, like the car engine, like a plane engine, can fail to work well, in fact, fail to work at all. Sometimes a little part is missing. Sometimes a tiny grain of sand gets into the carburetor of a car engine. That car just wouldn't work well. And just as how small things can make a big difference for bad or good, so God can use you, if you allow Him to make a big difference for good. And you give yourself to Jesus, and He will use you to make big differences for good, not only in your life, but in the life of others. I'll tell you a story about a small boy, we'll call him Jimmy, that God used to make a big difference in a big man's life. And that man was none other than his dad. Truth is, Mr. Smith wasn't really Jimmy's dad. But Mr. Smith had gone through a bad experience. He had a wonderful wife and they had a son. And every week Mr. Smith would go to church. He believed in God. He, his wife, and his son would go to church. They also went to the beaches. They went on vacations. They did many wonderful things together. But one day tragedy struck. And both Mr. Smith's wife and his son died. Well, the story didn't say how they died. Probably it was an accident. Probably it was illness. But Mr. Smith became very hurt, very sad, very angry. He questioned God. Why? In fact, Mr. Smith was so hurt. He was so angry that as time went by, he stopped believing in God. He said, if God is real, if God is love, why would God do something like this? Probably there's no God at all. Or if there's a God, He's not a nice, kind person. Well, Mr. Smith kept on going to work kept on living, but not a very happy man. One day when he was going home from work, he saw something that made his heart shudder. There was a building on fire. Many people stood around, but what made Mr. Smith's heart shudder was as he looked up at that building in about the 3rd or 4th floor, there was a little child in the window crying. People on the ground looking on were crying also. Some people were praying, but Mr. Smith was sure of one thing. If help did not come fast, that little boy would perish. He remembered how he had lost his own little boy, and he decided he must do something. You see, there wasn't even the sound of the fire engines yet, although people had called them. And so Mr. Smith did something that some people thought was really foolish. Mr. Smith ran into that building, ran up the stairs till he came to the place where the little boy was. He took off his coat and wrapped the little boy and tried to make his way out of the building. But there was thick smoke. He couldn't breathe properly. He couldn't see properly. He had to keep his eyes closed, for the smoke was burning his eyes. How could he make his way out? He had to feel his way out, putting his hands on the walls and on the railings. But the railings were on fire, the walls were hot, and Mr. Smith's hands got really burned badly. When he got to the ground floor, the firemen had arrived, and they assisted him. They took the little boy from him, and they took him to hospital because he had breathed so much smoke. While in hospital, Mr. Smith's hands were put in bandages, and he had to rest there a while. After some weeks, the bandages were removed, and his hands could be used, but his hands were badly scarred. They looked ugly. Mr. Smith didn't like the look, but he didn't feel too badly because he knew those hands were scarred because it saved a little boy's life. But what about the little boy? Mr. Smith was greatly saddened when he found out that both the boy's parents had died, maybe in the same fire, and the boy was put in an orphanage. He decided he will adopt that boy. So he made an application to the adoption agency so that he may have that boy as his son. But the adoption agency turned him down. He couldn't understand why. What he did not know is some Christian neighbors had gone to the adoption agency and told them, don't give that man that child, he's an infidel, he don't believe in God. He will make that boy an infidel. Well, Mr. Smith, although he didn't know that, he argued his case. He went to them, he argued. Well, he says, give us a reason why we should give you this child. Mr. Smith thought for a while. Then he raised his badly scarred hands and he said, I have only one argument. It is this. All the people in the court were moved, and Mr. Smith won his case. He took that little boy and surprised everybody. He became one of the best fathers there could be. He made sure that little boy went to school, made sure he had good stuff to eat, and he took him to the parks, he took him to football games, he took him to the beaches. Little Jimmy loved his new dad. Mr. Smith would tell him a story every night before he go to bed. A story like Jack and the Beanstalk, a story like the Three Little Pigs, a story like Cinderella, and Jimmy loved stories. One day, as Jimmy asked Dad about his hands, he told him how his hands became scarred, how he had rescued him from the fire, how he had gone to court and raised up his hands and said, I have only one argument. Jimmy loved that story. It became his best story. Regardless of what story his dad told him when the night came, he would say, tell me the story about the fire. Tell me the story about your hands. And Jimmy would listen. And when it came to the part where he said, I have only one argument, Jimmy would say along the words with him. Jimmy would hold up his own hands too and said, I have only one argument, it is this. There's one sad thing. You see, Mr. Smith never told Jimmy a story from the Bible. He didn't want Jimmy believing what he called nonsense. One day, Mr. Smith took Jimmy to a museum to an art exhibition. At this exhibition, there were paintings by Leonardo da Vinci, by Rembrandt, and some of the great artists. Jimmy had never heard those names, and some of the painting looked weird to him. But Dad would stop by each painting and explain who the artist was, the year he painted it, what the scene was. Jimmy was sort of bored. For a little boy, that wasn't much interest. But then he saw a painting that got his attention, and he ran over it. He said, Dad, tell me about this one. When Dad looked at the picture, it was a picture of Jesus holding out his hands to Thomas. And Dad says, nah, not that one. Jimmy says, why? And Mr. Smith said, because it isn't true. Then Jimmy said, but you tell me stories that are not true. You told me Jack and the Beanstalk is not true. Oh, Mr. Smith realized he couldn't get away. And so he told the story about Jesus, who was such a good man. And he helped many people, he healed people, and wicked people took him and killed him. But Jesus even loved the wicked people who killed him. And after 3 days, Jesus rose from the dead. He visited some of his friends. They were so happy to see him. They told the other friends they had seen him. Thomas was not there, and Thomas couldn't believe it. And he told the friends, he said, except I see him, except I see the scars in his hands and I've put my fingers in it, I wouldn't believe. Well, one day when they were all gathered together, Thomas was there, Jesus appeared. And Jesus addressed Thomas personally. He said, Thomas, come, feel my hands. And Thomas said, my Lord, my God. Thomas believed. Jimmy loved that story. He said, Dad, it's like you and me. It's like you and me. He said, Dad, suppose Thomas didn't believe that good man. Suppose, Dad, suppose when you held up your hands in the court and said, I have only one argument, they didn't believe you. Suppose, Dad, when you told me the story of how you rescued me from the fire and your hands got burnt, I didn't believe you. That wouldn't have been nice. Why didn't Thomas believe that man? And Mr. Smith thought for a while. He had unbelief. He was unbelieving. Yes, those hands of Jesus were scarred even for him. And that made a big difference in Mr. Smith's life. He decided he would start going to church again. He decided he would believe that man whose hands were scarred for him. Little boys, little girls, your little words or little actions can make a big difference in many people's lives. Keep doing good. Let Jesus use you today and always. Thank you very much.